Right, in this video I refer to cooking times. Now in the oven I'm going to put the full recipe below in the video for the conventional oven and so on. For the Remoska, I actually cooked it for 2 hours. I think really it will be cooked between 1.5 hours and 2 hours, and I think after say 15 minutes you should put the aluminium foil on and act as a protector from the direct heat. You'll see what I mean when the video goes. So please, when you listen to me talking on the video, please remember I think 1.5 to 2 hours in a Remoska is ample. Okay, I'm going to do a Chinese meal now, crispy belly of pork. It is relation to boats, caravans, etc. in the sense I'll be using a Remoska, and I'll show you a Remoska in a bit. But there is about 750 grams of crispy pork belly. I'm going to show you the preparation, which is going to be cooked tomorrow, but it's going to be prepared today because it takes a while. And that's that. Now, for 750 grams, I'll put the recipe below for three pounds, which is the traditional recipe. But of course, you'll have to halve it for smaller amounts. Right, in this pestle and mortar is at the moment 2 tablespoons of sea salt, 1 heaped teaspoon of 5 spice powder, and 2 teaspoons of sugar. And the reason there should be, in fact, I think 2 teaspoons of sugar would be about half a tablespoon, I'm hoping. Anyway, that's what's in there. Now over here is Sichuan peppers. Now what I'll do with that is I'll take them over here and I'm going to dry roast them. Now shouldn't take long, a few minutes, just to release the smell in there. You can see them smoking. I've got it on a fairly high heat there, but I'll reduce that now because I don't really need that now the pan's hot. The one thing about electric is that it stays hot a long time. So that's dry roasted. That takes a few minutes. Darkens brown, splits a bit. You'll see it'll split. You might even see them bounce if I keep it there for a second. No, sometimes they pop. Anyway, that's that. A minute or so, I think. Right, that'll do. Oh yeah, I think they might have seen one move then. Now, sometimes they pop and move around, these ones aren't doing it. Anyway, there we are. So that's ready now. So I'll take that off, turn it off first, the heating, and I'll take them over here and I'll put them in there. And that is now powdered up. And while I get on with that, I'll come back to you a bit later on. This is the pork belly. Now you take a Stanley knife for that, and you can either do it in squares, so it's easy to cut. And today I'm going to do it like that. So I'm going to start here. You see, the shop bought ones has slices in it, but they're so narrow they really don't count. So that comes on like that. All around the fat, you're going through the fat. Well, I'll finish doing that because I'm going that way now. and I'll come back to that. Now there's the meat cut. I've got a meat hook, you see. You could use string and push it through with a knife if you haven't got the meat hook. Now what I do is I boil the kettle, and what I'm doing is I'm rendering the fat on the outside. Now, that's the fat, the pelly pork belly sliced, and a bit too much there, into the meat too much, and you want to cut the fat. Anyway, it's still cook all right. And now I've got to marinate this side in due course with the meat marinade. Right, now I'm taking the marinade, which is here, and smearing it on the back into all the meat. Quite a bit of fat on this particular joint. We didn't choose it ourselves because it had to be delivered because of lockdown. So you can see that's now well and truly smeared on the meat side. If there's any left in there, in the marinade, put it to one side, have it with a pork chop. Just grilled pork chop, it's nice. Well, I think that's it. Right, put it there, and there's one more thing to show you in a minute. Right, now, you'll see a fan. Now, it doesn't have to be a fan, you can put it in a cool place, as long as it's exposed to the air. I'll turn it on and explain. The air goes on this, on the fat, and the idea is to turn, the fat should feel like paper, blotting paper, dry paper. It should be dry to the touch. And that's when it's time for roasting. But I'm going to do that till tomorrow morning. So, but I'll do it for the rest of the day. I'll put it in the freezer and I'll cook it tomorrow. The cooking takes some time. I'm now going to show you the Remoska. Right, here's a Remoska. It's I've just turned that light off. Okay. Right, it's from Lakeland in the United Kingdom. It's basically an electric oven. The history is that in Czechoslovakia, during the Soviet times, the people were very poor. This was created to give like a way of cooking for cheaper. It runs on 400 watts, which, if I remember right, is about, well, I think you divide 12 into, or 24, depending on what voltage system you got, into the power. I think it gives you the amperage. But anyway, this is the way it works. Inside you find a rack. I've put lining paper at the bottom. There's the heat. The heat comes from that circle at the top. You put it on, and you basically roast. Now I'm going to do on video at some point. I'm doing the pork belly in here, but I'm going to do a bread, baked bread, and I'm going to do a chicken. And what you do also when you're doing this, because the heat comes from the top, sometimes it's necessary to cover the things up, which I'll be doing there to stop the direct heat from burning, so you put something like that over the top of it, or if it's going around the edges and you want to just do the top, you use something like that as a protection. So those are the things that you use. And I say, I know friends of mine that actually do all their meals in it, stews and everything in it. I'm not enthusiastic about doing stews in it. There's so many better ways of cooking stews. I don't think a Remoska is the ideal thing. But then if you've only got one cooking sauce, why not? This is the next day. There's the meat. It's still sort of paper dry. I should have taken it out a bit earlier, I think, out of the fridge, but it'll do. And here's the Remoska. Now, I've left the lid on for a little while, for about 5-10 minutes to warm up. As mind you, that's where the heat comes from. Now, there's where it's going to go on the track. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water in the bottom up to where the meat goes. And the reason I'm doing that, so it won't splatter. There's the meat that's in there now, and I'm now going to put the lid on it. Move it out of the way in the Remoska. Now I'm going to do that for an hour and a half, and I'll check it. Now, well, in fact, it's 2 hours in fact to cook, and that's probably enough actually for that joint. It's a little bit on the darker side of the top, but generally okay cooked. That will scrape off those little bits and it'd be quite nice. So it's cooked. So I've done it to one side, and now I'm going to stir fry vegetables and noodles with it.